We are recording. Fantastic. Hello and welcome to everybody to the Bahamas International Film Festival virtually. I'm delighted. We are from Los Angeles to Mexico to Bahamas and wherever you're seated right here. And I'm delighted to be joined by our Shining Star tribute, Krisha Fairchild. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
It's very tough in our pretend green room. We needed about a whole day to unleash this wonderful conversation. But you know, it's really delightful to have you as one of our tribute actors to celebrate you, your work, your career thus far. We're so grateful, and you know, it's an honor to have you here with us. My first question to you though is, where did that bug, that heart, that inspiration for you to take on this journey and become an actor, where did it begin for you?
As a child, I believe that when it sounds, what it sounds like. I believe that creative people particularly are born with a gift, that we have a difference about the way we view things and hear things and see things and interpret things that really shows up very early. When I read about reincarnation later on, I thought, maybe I was reincarnated a lot of times, because as a child, I was the person who, if I saw a picture of a Japanese house with shoji screens and tatami mats, I knew what it looked like to be in that house. I could feel slipping my feet out of those shoes and stepping up into the room and rolling the mat out at night to sleep. I could, as a child, I'm talking about like 7 years old, I would go to the library and I would go to the picture book section, coffee table books. And I would bring these coffee table books home and I would live in the pictures that I saw there, the spaces, the houses, the people. I studied how people moved. I studied their mannerisms and the way their languages were constructed as a young child. Where does that come from? And then one day I was riding my bike and my dog was with me, and a truck came down a hill and hit my dog. And I was like maybe 8 years old. And when the truck went by, my dog was laying there and blood was running down and a thing happened to me emotionally that most children don't experience about something. I mean, there are a lot of children who are abused who experience things like that, but I would have had a happy, blissful childhood. And I went to such a dark place as a result of that it took me days to pull out of it. And my parents kept saying, we need to get her a puppy, da, da, da. And I realized only later, I had an ability to connect with emotion in a way that not everybody else has. I had an elevation of emotion and the access to it whenever I thought about it again. Well, that's like, hello.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be an actor. I mean, who else does that? Yeah. And so as I went along, I met other people that, like, I would meet somebody who is like doodling, and you go over and you look at their doodle and it's an absolute dead nuts impression of a person or a dog or a thing or whatever, with character and with animation and whatever. And I'm like, I would pick up my pencil and draw a stick figure of that same thing. Wow. They have a gift. They have a gift. There were kids who could sing, right? I mean, you've heard these kids. Yeah. Where does that come from? Yes, I was around music my whole life.
I mean,
but I don't have the voice of an angel.
Listen, but for you personally, I can't imagine, from what I've seen of your work, how unfortunate it would have been if you did not exercise your gifts, you know, like you had to do that. Did you find it like, I mean, I think a lot of people, artists, creative people, find their art, their creativity extraordinarily therapeutic. But it's not just a choice, it's a need. It must be.
And yes, it's a need, and it's a need that people try to block you from.
Yes.
Your whole life, people with your best interest at heart,
Yes.
people who want you to have a real career,
Yeah.
people who want you to have, you know, a picket fence and a house and all these things that they want for their life and they think you want for your life.
Mhm.
I was like 12 years old and I was telling people, I'm never going to get married and have children and all that stuff. I want to have a career. And they're like, well, women don't have careers. You know, this is 1961, right?
You know, the thing is that looking, you know, the work that I've watched of yours, which, you know, I'm in it when I'm with you. When you give us a performance, I am in it, and it's I forget where I am. I'm watching a film, and it's like I'm being hypnotized. For you personally, like looking at your work, and I was even looking back at some of your images from you know, throughout your career, and I was like you just mentioned to us before, you transform, and I think you are one of those creative people that literally is a new person, a new being. You look different, you act different. I mean, not everyone has got that. Is that something that you knew that you had? Because every single film, everything, you just feel a completely new character, like completely, and you look so different.
That was something that I was aware of from young. And interestingly enough, when I went to professional acting school, I was one of these people who was always acting in high school and shit. And then I got a full scholarship to college and at a state university. My family was very happy. And I went there and I'm like, teach me something. I know all this shit. Is there anything you can teach me which sound, again, it sounds arrogant, but it'd be like if a person who had math equations in their head was being forced to take beginning algebra or beginning, it's like jump them ahead a little, you know? So I jumped myself right out of that scholarship and into a professional theater school, which my parents were not happy about. They tried to block me in every way. And when I got to the theater school, that's when they taught me, okay, so if you're gonna do this, if you wanna do this, you gotta take the shtick and throw it away. You gotta take all the stuff that you've watched people do and get rid of that, because if you're going to do this, you have to do it from the inside out.
Yeah.
And once I got that understanding, then I became that actor who it's boring. I'm the actor who has a backstory for every part of my characters. I'm the actor who draws to me their wardrobe and things that they handle and the things that are important to them. In Krisha, there were a half dozen emotional touchstones. I was wearing a chain that belonged to my mother. I was wearing a ring that had belonged to Nika, the girl, my niece who died, who was an addict. My mother was an alcoholic. I was the box that I had that had the drugs in. When Nika was trying to be straight, she was on methadone, and yet she had young children. So she bought a lockbox so that the methadone could be in a safe place so that her children would be safe. And I watched her with the list of checking off. When my mother was older and she started going dementia, she was the woman in the wheelchair in Krisha. That was really my mother.
Yeah.
And when she went demential, I made her lists of her medication because I knew that that's what she needed. That you come from the inside of what the people that you're playing need.
Yeah.
What their weaknesses are, where their holes are inside them.
Yeah.
And then when you put the things with that, all you have to do is when you touch that thing, then you go there.
Yeah.
And so acting school didn't teach me that. I already had that. What acting school taught me was the discipline of not having to live in that method, to not have to be that person 24/7, which is what a lot of method actors do. Yeah. So I teasingly tell people I'm a prop actor.
I love it. I mean,
are only the connection, you know.
Let's journey into Krisha, because that was a whole, like, firstly, it's one of the most important films you'll see in your lifetime. I go as far as saying that. I think it's probably the best film ever seen that's really captured what it feels like for one to go through an actual addiction from their perspective. What was mesmerizing about you and why you are a shining star is, you know, I was just massively uncomfortably crying and finding it difficult watching you because I hated seeing your struggle. But when you delve into the greatness of just, this was very much a family affair, wasn't it? You know,
It was.
and I'm so honored you just showcased your vulnerability and your great talent and gave us a gift to the world through your pain and like, I just think that's amazing. Was that would you say that was a project that really did it change you in any particular way in your craft, in your art? How was that experience for you?
It was the only thing up until then that I had ever done that I felt I had been as good as I could be, as what I needed, as I had brought everything that I needed to bring to honor the experience that we had all lived through around that. And that was a big serving to scoop out. You know, it was a big job for all of us. But you know, again, Trey was gifted as a child.
Oh, amazing.
And I understood that when he was 6 years old, the first time I told his mother he's going to be a film director. And she said, "Oh, would you stop?" And I'm like, "Robin, he just did 15 minutes on the difference in the directorial style of the different Batman movies."
Wow.
Okay. He's 6 years old.
It's
He's not supposed to be watching the Batman movies to see the director. Okay. And so to me, Danny, and thank you for it. It is a gift because we took our pain and we said, I don't care how much this hurts. There are people who this hurts this bad and they don't know how to talk about it. They don't know anybody else is hurting this bad.
Yeah.
They think that they isolate that it's the secret in the attic, you know, and when Trey came to all of us, there's one shot in the whole movie that is absolutely lifted from real life. Only one. Isn't that interesting? There was no turkey situation. There was the one shot lifted from real life is the shot when they find out that she's been drinking and they're trying to send her upstairs and she goes rushing across the room to grab her son.
Yes.
Okay. Trey was sitting in the corner of that table watching Nika run towards her son, the boy I had been raising.
Wow.
Because when we had to take our children away, I was single and I lived in Hawaii and I had a good life and we had to keep her from, I'm sorry, this is still hard. We had to keep her from grabbing him. You know how people grab their kids because they love them so much?
Yes.
I think I'm good. I'm sober. I can take my kid now and you won't let me have my kid. I'm taking my kid. Well, we were afraid she would take the children. So I brought him to Hawaii to keep him safe. So in that scene, Trey was watching this happen. And when he wrote it in the scene, he put himself in the seat, in the chair of the child, because he was watching the face of that child when this was all going on. Okay, so basically, I mean, he wrote this when Nika passed of an overdose within weeks after this family event. Trey went in a room and wrote. So how am I gonna not bring my gift to support his gift when there's a world full of people in pain who don't know that they need to see this movie?
My God, we're both crying here, okay? Because literally, I'm so glad. I mean, firstly, what a multi-talented, beautiful family you have. That's the first thing. My goodness me. I mean, Trey and everybody is just, I know there's a few Fairchilds in there and, you know, there's some special people in there and you can really feel the energy. But I think there's nothing more powerful than not only did you create this film and give us this gift of vulnerability, but this movie goes as far as what you just said. Did you really think knowing this, and have you heard things since? Because this movie can save lives. Like, that's how powerful this is.
Not a day passes. The movie was shot in 2014. not a day passes 6 years later that I don't get a comment somewhere, a message from someone who's just watched it. That's my ex was, when we met after Krisha had been shot, but before it had been released. And he was 22 years sober then. And a long, hard ride. He had been a heavy duty alcoholic, lost a family. And when he saw this film, he said he had never seen anything that did it the way it feels to the people involved. And the other thing, Danny, that was so amazing, the very first screenings of it in South by, we would do Q&As, and when the Q&A was over, people would start down the aisle toward us, and I knew exactly who each person was coming to. The people who had fought for sobriety came to me. Most people believed it was my story because of the name.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I'm that person who drinks 2 sips of wine and is on the table dancing. I'm totally, because our mother was an alcoholic and her father was an alcoholic. All 3 of the Fairchild girls, my sister Robin and Vicky, who were in the movie, we were all on the verge of teetotalers because we were being so careful.
Yeah.
Anyway, the parents who have lost people and the people who have lost people went to my sister Vicky because they knew that it was about her daughter who had died. The people who had been enablers and had tough love people and whatever went to my sister Robin. And all the people who wanted to know about the difference in aspect ratio, they all went to Trey.
Yeah.
That's so mean.
I won't ask you any questions about that because I haven't got any idea myself. But no, I mean, firstly, I do want to say how wonderfully shot that film was. I mean, listen, I mean, I'm mesmerized by that performance, other performances, but I know really am. It's something quite special when you just keep somebody there and you're in it with them. What I love is that, I mean, firstly, leading a role like that is it's an undertaking and a half, not to mention the backstory and the people that are involved within, the people that you love. What was like for you personally taking on a journey as a leading actress in a film like this? You've obviously got the craft and the art and everything else, but is it an extraordinary gratifying feeling when you've got all those people coming up to you because this is what you did to them? Is that an amazing feeling? It must be.
I'm just enough of a codependent. For me, it was more about Trey.
Yeah.
All of the responses to me were more about Trey. It was more like, he's good now.
Yeah.
We have launched this gifted person out into the world where people see their gifts. For me, I was a little more embarrassed about it because I never, how to say this? I tried to get out of doing it. After saying yes, because it was like, well, because I lost my finger breaking up a dogfight exactly 2 months to the day before we were supposed to shoot it.
2 months before wow, really?
And so he calls me the day I've come back from the hospital having my finger amputated. And I've driven myself back because I'm alone here. I've driven myself back with this giant bandage. And and he calls me and he's so excited. He's like, Kita, we've got a start date. I just put the deposits on the camera package and I just booked the crew and everything, and the start date is this. And I just fell apart on the floor and said, I can't do it. And you know what's funny, Danny, is what I said was, I just lost a part of my body. I can't go there. I can't go to those dark places because I don't know how to get back. If I'm not the strong me sitting here with my whole body and all my fingers, what if I can't get back? That literally was what I thought of it.
Wow.
And he took a beat and he said, okay, then you don't worry about that. I'm going to cancel the shoot for now. If you're ever ready to do it, you let me know.
Wow. Wow.
And I had a good cry. I had a good talk with myself. I called him back and I said, I'm in. And from the moment I got there, we were living family style. I was making coffee for everybody every morning. I got there early so I could wash all the sheets and change the beds because everybody was living in the house. I went to Costco. Robin and I went to Costco and we bought a panini maker. Turned out to be, here's my pro tip. If you have a low budget film and you're making a low budget film, go to Costco, get a panini maker, and you're good, you know.
Great. Well, we'll get Costco to sponsor all of your talks and your films next. I think they really that time. I really like. I honestly found. I really find you so refreshing to watch on screen. I find you refreshing to talk to as a human being too. I really do. But I find you refreshing to watch because, you know, with this, and I also want to, you know, go into obviously your other film that's happening right now, Freeland, which is actually at Bahamas and on the end of its festival run. But you really, you just take us there. You give such a real performance. I forget I'm watching a movie. Is that something that's important to you as an artist, of how deep you want it, where you want to take us and how you want to take us, and how's that kind of worked as well with the, you know, with Freeland also too?
Okay, when I was being trained, and I knew that I had this emotional reservoir, and they were trying to get me to drop the shtick, and all I could think was, I'm going to be very exposed.
Yeah.
If I drop the shtick and I am as real as I am really, I don't know that I can do that. So what I did is I studied to be a stage actor instead. Can't see it past the fourth row. I thought I can't do that other thing. I certainly am not going to expose myself to that level. And anytime I was on camera during that period of my life, when I would see it later, I would go like, oh, too big. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, but I'm a big person. This is my real energy right now. People always thought I was high my whole life. And I'm like, I'm not, this is just my energy.
Great energy. Yeah.
Thank you. But so what I had to learn, and again, now this is a real pro tip. Just before any camera rolls, I have to say, do nothing.
Yes.
Do nothing. Just be.
Yeah.
Feel. Even if I think too much, you see it too much. So I literally know that I'm always going to be thinking, and I'm always going to be feeling, and I'm always going to be showing it. So I have to, for camera work. So I never in a million years thought that camera would be where I would find the chance to use my gift, because it was, but once I got that do nothing, then I always had a place I knew where I was while the character was doing that. And whatever the character was doing, she went with it. And I mean, to the point where sometimes when a scene is over, my face is tingling. I'm like, I have to like pull myself back.
I love it. And
I'm not a psychiatrist hearing this. We're thinking.
No, it's brilliant. And this is great, you know, artist, you know, human being therapy right here. I mean, it's marvelous. I can't even say a great performance because it didn't feel performed. It felt just, I was there and I was.
It never feels performed to me either.
Yeah.
If I feel like I'm performing, I ask for another take. That's it. I've taught every director who works with me.
Yeah.
There's a little dial, and all you have to do after every take is come over to me and show me where you want me to go on that dial. Wow. If you want me to switch dials, then you need to explain that to me and we'll create a new dial. But the dial we're in right now, you can do this, just little bitty increments, but you have to tell me, because otherwise I'm going to feel where she is going.
Yeah.
And you may not be happy where she's going. You want her to go. That's the hardest thing about playing a lead in a film. You have a whole arc. You're shooting out of sync. The character has started as one person and one needs to end as another person. How do you keep from getting lost in the maze of it? Mm-hmm. You know, for me, I work with my script. I notate my script about what happened just before this scene and what happens after this scene. And then I always, before I start, I remind the cinematographer, tell me what the last levels you saw. And then I'll go to the director and I'll say, okay, so now this is what I remember she was feeling just before this. Does that work? Yes, that's just right. Okay. This is where I think I need to be feeling at the end of it. Is that right? Maybe a little more or less of that. Oh, okay. So recalibrate. Okay. And because I don't understand when people who have no film experience give these amazing performances, because to me, the out of syncness of it is a nightmare of continuity.
Yeah.
And for them, I guess they're maybe not even thinking of that. Maybe they're just able to be.
But your process, it's just so nice because well, nice is the wrong word. It's mesmerizing because even just you going into a pillbox is like, I'm just fascinated just by your thought process, what you're thinking for at that particular moment. Like, you really take us on those journeys that we have as a human being when we're going through life, I want to say, like, you are obviously, I just want to see you leading in every film because you just lead us on a journey that I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself afterwards. Basically, it's amazing. But with Freeland, like a different journey here. It's obviously already won awards, got winners at Nashville, for example. It's amazing. How has that experience been for you, and how's that been different for you as well?
Well, first of all, nobody gets so lucky as to get a role like Krisha and then to get a role like Debbie.
Yes.
Who, by the way, her name was Debbie. And I just said to them, there is no way that she would have kept that name, okay?
Yeah.
Going with Debbie. And they were like, okay. They were, okay, the key for me is filmmakers who are very certain of themselves, but don't really have a certainty around the process I do, who watch my work and then go, we're going to trust her.
Yeah.
We're going to let her have input and we're going to trust that. And we're going to listen and we're going to try it. And then if it doesn't work, then we go to our way. And so amazing collaboration, also family style, sharing. I like to say the directors made the coffee for this one. I knew I was moving up. Instead of making coffee, the directors are making the coffee. But we took turns making breakfast, and we spent every evening after the shoot was over having dinners together on a balcony, a big deck next to a river up in Northern California. And we had time to talk about what the next day was. They built, even though it was a low budget film, they built a lot of air into it so we could find a lot of things. So the actors could fill the character, breathe in that character. And when they breathe out, they were allowed to breathe out some of the story that maybe wasn't in the script, but they know is part of that person's story, part of the story of this group of people being together. So I got incredibly lucky. Debbie is a lot more like me than Krisha was. Krisha was very difficult for me because of the dark parts. Debbie was a fighter. She's an old hippie. She's a woman who built her own cottage with her own hands. It's like I had a tool belt. I never needed it, but I bought a tool belt to have with me. I took all these things with me, and I'm like, okay, this is the apron she wears when she's cutting the weed, because she grows weed and she's about to lose her farm. It's so bizarre. Everybody knows it's good that weed has been legalized because it's a healing, miracle, miraculous, natural thing that people for centuries have known about.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about when big ag came in and took over, when big money came in and took over, all the small farmers, they lost their shirts. Some of them cashed out. The ones who were stubborn and said, wait a minute, I built this house by hand. I want to die in this bed. I mean to live here my whole life. You don't understand. This isn't a business for me. It is a business. It supported me. It's my life, And Debbie was one of those people who held on so long that she almost lost her life. as a result of it. And so for her, it was much easier. Everything was easy. I just asked myself, what the fuck would I do if these assholes started doing shit like this to me? And that tough kind of a piece of me just rose right up, and they trusted me, and we added a lot to the story, and we improvised a little bit. Most of it was they call it a scriptment. It was much more than that. But man, did I get lucky. I got another chance to be as real as I could be in a character that I absolutely understood the life experience of. And what gets better than that?
What a dream, you know.
Here's the
well deserved though. Well deserved.
There are actors who, to me, there are actors who are chameleons. They can do anything. They can become anybody. Meryl Streep is one of those actors. You know, I don't have that ability. Something needs to be, I won't even take it if it doesn't speak to part of me. I also won't take, and I've never told anybody this, I turn down evil roles unless they get their ass kicked, because I believe in good.
Yeah.
And I can bring evil. You want to see evil? I can bring it. I can bring it.
Well, let's put that out to universe, please. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not going to bring it unless in the script that character loses as a result of what they did. And you know, at my age, I can stand on these things.
I know, but that again is something that we don't often, you know, see. We sort of, you know, almost show them as a sort of like substitute hero sometimes, the way it's articulated in storytelling. So I love that you know that you want to see them get their ass kicked. Brilliant. I listen. This should be an 8-hour series of conversations with you. That's what I'm only grateful for. I'm so glad that the Bahamas International Film Festival recognize you. We definitely have to be there, and we'll have a second tribute for you and everybody on the islands too. But thanks to the whole film festival. I just want to close with a question, bit of a two-parter question. You've given us so much wonderful advice and inspiration during this talk, but for you as a creative person, what is it that inspires you to wake up in the morning? And second part to that question, any filmmakers out there that are just wanting to find their feet, their stories, no matter what part of their career or life there is there any advice you want to share for those people too?
All right. Well, the waking up in the morning is easy for me. You wake up in the morning so you can start singing to your dogs.
Yes.
If you don't wake up,
yes.
If you don't wake up, the dogs are going to keep sleeping and nobody's going to sing. It's like joy, mindfulness, gratitude. It sounds like a self-help book. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Joy, mindfulness, gratitude. If you got that, if you find that, if you stop the story that you're telling yourself that is taking you away from that, and you put yourself in the moment and notice something real, a bird that sang. It's so simple. Open a window. You know, I mean, it's like, so I say that understanding I am blessed to have that disposition, and every man I've ever partnered with and fallen in love with in my life and spent anguished years with has been a tortured individual. Every man. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. My soul sister is my little sister, Robin. One in the movie, she's my soul, my person, my soul person and soulmate. And so and she's very joyful too. Okay, advice to filmmakers. The best thing that I can tell you, and it's the same thing that people used to tell writers, write what you know. Watch enough films and study enough filmmaking that you understand what part of what you know would make a good film. And then tell what you know. But don't just think that every moment of your life is good film. You know, you have to immerse yourself in films you admire. You have to, film school, not film school. Trey's film school was that he took a job that he hated. He did nothing for 2 years, but this crappy job, go to the gym and watch movies. Mm-hmm. He watched thousands of movies in that couple of years. All right. Immerse yourself in the work you admire. Remember that not everybody is fascinated by every aspect. Look for the universal stuff. Oh, my dogs are getting aggressive because
it's ready. It's
they haven't been
tea
stuck to.
time. It's tea time, and they also want to. How beautiful! Oh, look at these babies. I mean, goodness me, I'm surprised you can lead them and go on set. They're so cute. And animals are everything for a creative person too. I'm
especially in isolation. I think anybody. I've been isolated now since March. You can never tell, right?
Sing to your dogs, honestly, sing to your dogs. I really love that. That was a beautiful, pleasurable end for all of our viewers as well. Thank you. They're such beautiful dogs. I love it. And they obviously had a thing to say too about you. They obviously love you. I love that, that the Bahamas has recognized you for your career thus far. We're grateful to have you. I know that you came out of retirement to make these more films, but please keep making more work. We need you. All right.
Well, I hope to, Danny. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Stay safe.
Bye, everyone.